Hey, what's up there, Keto Challengers? It's Coach R. It's day 9 of our 10-day keto challenge. We are also at hour 46 for our 60-hour rebooters. Both groups, you guys are on the cusp of being done. I am so excited for you. One more day tomorrow to get through. So let's go ahead and talk about our tip for today, which is sleep and stress. And in particular, I want to talk to you about how the lack of sleep or an increase of stress can actually detour our weight loss journey, how it contributes to fat storage. Okay, I just want to break it down so we understand why our doctors are always saying we've got to manage our stress, we've got to reduce our stress. If you talk to a lot of functional medical doctors, and they will talk to you about the 5 pillars of health, and one of the pillars is sleep and stress management, okay? So let's talk about this, and I like talking to you about them together because the body actually responds to a lack of sleep and an increase in stress the exact same way, and that is to release a particular hormone in our body called cortisol. I'm sure you guys have heard of cortisol before, but did you know that cortisol and insulin actually have a very parallel relationship? When cortisol is high, chances are insulin is high as well. And we'll break down why this happens, okay? So when we don't get enough sleep, our bodies are actually in a slight state of stress. And here is your body's way of trying to cope with this stress in our bodies. It doesn't know if it's a life or death situation. It doesn't know if there's, from an ancestral or primal perspective, doesn't know if there's a bobcat staring at us in our face. The reaction is the same. Is the cortisol, is the adrenaline, is to give us the hormones and the tools. Our bodies are giving us the tools it needs so that we can respond to that stimulus, and that stimulus is stress. Well, in the 21st century, we don't have a bobcat staring at us in our face, but we still receive the same stimulus from a biology, from a molecular standpoint, okay? So what does cortisol do? So scientists have actually proven that cortisol negatively impairs the insulin receptors on our cell membrane. So that means that our bodies are not able to intake glucose or enough glucose at a rapid pace in order to break down glucose for energy. So what happens is the body pushes out more insulin so it can push more glucose into the cells. But if the cell receptors are impaired, then that's not going to happen. You're going to have this high state of glucose and insulin in our body, which ultimately contributes to insulin sensitivity and the negative effects of reduced insulin sensitivity. That is pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes. So when cortisol is high and insulin is high, it actually mimics a state of type 2 diabetes. Another interesting thing that happens to our body when we have a reduced amount of sleep is that cortisol affects another hormone. Okay, and that hormone is ghrelin. And you've probably heard me talk about the ghrelin and leptin hormones in our body are our appetite hormones. Ghrelin in particular tells our body to eat. It wants us to eat. And not just any foods, it wants us to eat sugary, carbohydrate-rich foods. Why? Because when we are in a slight state of stress, and the body isn't getting enough energy from the food that we eat, of course it's going to tell you, you need more energy, you need more food. And what is glucose? Glucose, if you remember from a previous day, glucose is the first fast-acting form of energy in our body. Our body utilizes that first, and it knows it. It's supposed to be fast-acting, and it's supposed to be utilized quickly. Okay, so it tells us to eat these carbohydrate-rich, sugary foods so that we can get that boost of energy so we can supposedly run away from that bobcat. But there is no bobcat staring at us in the face. It's just we have not gotten enough sleep. But if you remember, your body is counteracting itself because cortisol actually impairs the cell receptors. So you're almost stuck in this constant loop of trying to get more energy. Your body is telling you to eat these types of foods, and your cortisol is too high, and it's not allowing enough energy production from a cell perspective. That's totally interesting, right? And remember too, when we are in a slight state of stress, our body actually craves certain hormones that we can release that will counterbalance all of that stress. And that is our dopamine and serotonin receptors. And one of the easy ways that the body can receive a surge of dopamine or serotonin is through sugar and glucose. Sugar, glucose, fructose all have the same effects on the cell receptors in our brain, the same as opiates and drugs do. Yes, it gives us a high, it gives us a sugar high, and it releases serotonin and dopamine into our system that counteracts that stress. Do you see now at what a well-oiled machine and how smart our bodies are? Unfortunately, when we eat too much sugary foods, the glycation that happens, the dysfunction that happens on the cell receptors of our cells eventually cause dysfunction from a cellular perspective, then an organ perspective, an organ system perspective, and that's what gets us in trouble. Okay, it's really easy to counteract this particular aspect of weight loss is to make sure that we get enough sleep and lower our stress. So do me a favor tonight, call it an early night, go get some sleep, and let's wake up on day 10 and get it. Our last day of the challenge. I'm so excited for you guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one, and way to go, rebooters. See you later. Bye-bye.